Only 7 to 8 pounds of your total pregnancy weight gain is actually baby. So where does the other 20, 30, or even 40 pounds go? Most women, and honestly, even some doctors who rush through appointments, never properly explain this. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's normal, what's not, and why that number on the scale might be lying to you more than you think. If you're pregnant right now, or trying to conceive, or supporting someone who is, think about the last time someone commented on your body. Maybe it was a relative at a family dinner who said you're carrying so big, or a stranger in a grocery store who felt entitled to touch your belly and share an opinion nobody asked for. Pregnancy is one of the only times in a woman's life when her body becomes public property for commentary, and weight gain sits right at the center of that anxiety. Today, we're removing the guesswork, the shame, and the confusion. We're covering exactly how much weight gain is medically normal, where that weight actually goes inside your body, what happens if you gain too much or too little, and how to stop comparing yourself to every other pregnant woman you see online. Stay until the end because the final section covers a mistake almost every first-time mom makes without realizing it. Let's start by killing one of the oldest phrases in pregnancy history, eating for two. You've heard it, maybe your own mother said it to you. It sounds harmless, even loving, but it is one of the most misleading pieces of advice ever normalized. Here's the truth. In your first trimester, your body needs 0 extra calories, not one single additional calorie. That surprises almost everyone watching this right now. In your second trimester, your body needs roughly 340 extra calories per day. In your third trimester, that number rises to about 450 extra calories per day. To put that into perspective, 340 calories is a glass of milk, a banana, and a slice of toast with peanut butter. It is not a second dinner plate. It is not indulging because you're pregnant now. Your baby, even at full term, weighs around 7.5 pounds. That is roughly the size of a watermelon, not the size of an extra human you need to feed entirely on top of yourself. Eating significantly more than your body needs doesn't build a stronger, healthier baby. It primarily builds excess fat stores in you, and in some cases, it increases the baby's size in ways that can complicate delivery. So if you're not actually eating for two, where is this weight coming from? Let's break it down piece by piece, because once you see this breakdown, the number on the scale stops feeling so mysterious. Here is exactly where a typical 25 to 35 pound pregnancy weight gain comes from. The baby itself accounts for around 7.5 pounds. The placenta, the organ that nourishes your baby throughout pregnancy, weighs about 1.5 pounds. Amniotic fluid, the cushion surrounding your baby, adds roughly 2 pounds. Your uterus itself grows dramatically, from the size of a pear to the size of a watermelon, adding about 2 pounds on its own. Your breast tissue increases in preparation for breastfeeding, adding 1 to 3 pounds. Your blood volume increases by up to 50% during pregnancy to support your growing baby, adding another 3 to 4 pounds. Then there's extra fat storage, your body's natural energy reserve for labor and breastfeeding, typically 5 to 9 pounds. And finally, fluid retention throughout your body adds another 2 to 3 pounds. Add all of that together and you reach a completely normal 25 to 35 pounds, even though the baby itself is a tiny fraction of that number. This is also exactly why so many women lose a significant portion of their pregnancy weight within just the first few weeks after delivery. Most of it was never permanent fat to begin with. It was fluid, blood volume, and tissue that your body builds specifically to support pregnancy, and then sheds once it's no longer needed. Now here's where this gets personal, because your ideal weight gain range is not the same as your sisters, your coworkers, or that influencers you keep comparing yourself to online. The Institute of Medicine, along with health bodies across the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and Europe, base recommended weight gain on your pre-pregnancy BMI. If you were classified as underweight before pregnancy, with a BMI under 18.5, the recommended gain is actually higher, around 28 to 40 pounds, because your body needs more reserves to support a healthy pregnancy. If your BMI was in the normal range, between 18.5 and 24.9, the recommended gain is 25 to 35 pounds. If you were classified as overweight with a BMI between 25 and 29.9, the recommendation drops to 15 to 25 pounds. And if your BMI was 30 or above, classified as obese, the recommendation is 11 to 20 pounds. If you're carrying twins or multiples, these numbers shift again, often ranging from 37 to 54 pounds for someone starting at a normal BMI. I want to pause here and say something important. These are population-level guidelines, not personal report cards. Your OB or midwife should always personalize these numbers based on your individual health history, not just a chart. If you've ever felt judged at a prenatal appointment because of a number on a scale, I want you to hear this clearly. These ranges exist to guide conversations, not to shame anyone. But understanding them does help you have more informed, less anxious conversations with your provider. Now stay with me because next we're covering something almost nobody explains properly: the actual timeline of when this weight should be gained, and why gaining it too fast can be just as concerning as gaining too little. In your first trimester, total weight gain is usually surprisingly small, somewhere between 1 and 5 pounds for the entire 3 months. Some women actually lose a small amount of weight during this period, especially if morning sickness or nausea makes eating difficult. If this is you, take a breath. In most cases, this is completely normal and does not harm your baby, as long as it's mild and temporary. Your baby is still tiny at this stage, about the size of a lime by the end of the first trimester, so dramatic weight gain isn't expected yet. The real shift happens in your second trimester, when steady weight gain typically begins at a rate of about 1 pound per week. This is when your baby enters a critical period of rapid growth, when organs continue developing and your body ramps up blood volume and nutrient delivery. Your third trimester continues at a similar pace, roughly 1 pound per week, though many women notice this naturally slows or plateaus in the final few weeks before delivery, which is also completely normal as your body prepares for labor. Understanding this timeline matters because gaining the bulk of your pregnancy weight too rapidly, especially in a short window, is associated with a higher risk of certain complications. Which brings us to something every pregnant woman deserves to understand clearly: what actually happens when weight gain goes outside the recommended range in either direction. Let's talk about excessive weight gain first, because this is where a lot of fear-based content online gets things wrong, and I want to handle this responsibly. Gaining significantly more than the recommended range has been associated with several increased risks. These include a higher chance of developing gestational diabetes, increased risk of preeclampsia, a serious blood pressure condition during pregnancy, a higher likelihood of needing a C-section delivery, and an increased chance of having a larger baby, a condition called macrosomia, which can complicate vaginal delivery. It's also associated with greater difficulty losing weight after pregnancy. But here's the nuance that matters: weight gain is one factor among many, not a guarantee of any of these outcomes. Genetics, pre-existing health conditions, age, and overall lifestyle all play significant roles too. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness, so you can make informed choices around nutrition and movement, in partnership with your healthcare provider rather than guessing in the dark. Now let's flip to the other side, because this part gets far less attention and it deserves just as much airtime. Insufficient weight gain carries its own real risks. These include a higher chance of low birth weight, an increased association with preterm birth, and potential nutrient deficiencies that affect both you and your baby, particularly in iron, folate, and protein. This is especially relevant for women who started pregnancy already underweight, or who experience severe nausea and vomiting throughout pregnancy, a condition known as hyperemesis gravidarum, which goes beyond typical morning sickness and requires medical attention. If you've ever felt anxious because you weren't gaining weight on schedule, please hear this. Your prenatal team is tracking far more than just your weight. They're monitoring your baby's growth curve through ultrasounds and fundal height measurements, your blood work, and your overall health markers. The scale is just one piece of a much bigger picture, and if you're working closely with your provider, occasional fluctuations are rarely a reason to panic alone at home. So what does healthy, balanced weight gain actually look like in daily life? Let's get practical. Focus on nutrient density over calorie density. This means prioritizing foods like lean proteins, leafy greens, whole grains, dairy or fortified alternatives, and healthy fats like avocado, nuts, and olive oil, rather than simply eating more volume of food. Stay well hydrated throughout the day, because proper hydration actually helps regulate fluid balance and can prevent some of the dramatic short-term weight fluctuations that often cause unnecessary panic on the scale. Engage in moderate pregnancy-safe movement when cleared by your doctor, such as walking, swimming, or prenatal yoga, all of which support healthy circulation, mood, and weight regulation without high-impact strain. Avoid extreme dieting or restriction during pregnancy under any circumstances. This is not the time to pursue weight loss goals, even if you entered pregnancy at a higher BMI. The focus should always be on nourishment, not restriction. Attend your prenatal visits consistently, because these checkups track your baby's actual growth trajectory, which tells your provider far more than an isolated weight number ever could. And perhaps most importantly, protect your mental health around this topic. Comparing your body, your bump size, or your weight gain to other pregnant women, especially on social media, is one of the fastest ways to spiral into unnecessary anxiety during a time that's already emotionally intense. Every pregnancy, every body, and every baby is different, and that's not a flaw in the system, that's just biology doing what it has always done. Now let's rapid fire through some of the biggest myths still circulating about pregnancy weight gain, because I guarantee you've heard at least two of these stated as fact. Myth: more weight gain always means a healthier baby. Fact: this is false. Babies don't need excess maternal fat storage to thrive. They need adequate nutrition, which is about quality, not just quantity. Myth: every pregnant woman must hit one exact universal number, like exactly 25 pounds. Fact: also false. Recommended ranges exist precisely because individual needs vary based on starting BMI, multiples, and personal health history. Myth: losing a small amount of weight in the first trimester always harms the baby. Fact: in most mild, temporary cases tied to normal nausea, this is not harmful, though it should always be monitored by your provider, especially if severe. Myths: the size of your bump or how much weight you've gained predicts how difficult your labor will be. Fact: there is no reliable correlation here. Labor outcomes depend on far more complex factors than visible weight gain. So here's the final takeaway I want you to walk away with today. Pregnancy weight gain was never meant to be a test you pass or fail. It is not a competition with your sister, your coworker, or a stranger on Instagram with a perfect bump. The breakdown we covered today: baby, placenta, fluid, blood volume, breast tissue, and energy reserves shows that this weight serves a real biological purpose. Your job isn't to control every fraction of a pound. It's to nourish yourself consistently, stay connected with your healthcare provider, move your body in ways that feel good and safe, and extend yourself the same compassion you'd offer any other woman going through this exact same biological process. If this video gave you clarity or eased some anxiety you've been carrying, share it with another expecting mom who needs to hear this too, and subscribe for more evidence-based pregnancy content that cuts through the noise and the guilt. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one piece of pregnancy weight advice you were given that you now know wasn't quite accurate? I genuinely love to read your experiences, because every story shared here helps another woman feel a little less alone in this.